Hey everyone, welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're going to be taking a look at the idea of 5 a.m. mastery. The source we're using for this makes it sound like waking up early is like this magical key to success. But I'm kind of curious to see if there's any real science behind it.
Well, there's actually some interesting research on the biological side of things. It's not just about willpower, although that definitely plays a role.
Okay, so it's not all just hype. There's something actually going on in our bodies that might make those early hours more powerful.
Right. It's about how our bodies naturally work. Like those circadian rhythms everyone's talking about. And then there are those key hormones that kind of flood our systems in the morning.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. The source mentioned things like cortisol and dopamine being released in the morning. What's so special about those two? And how does that tie into the whole idea of rewiring your brain for success, which is something this source really pushes? So basically, your body's getting you ready for action as soon as you wake up. Cortisol, which is usually linked to stress, can actually help you feel more alert and focused when it's released naturally in the morning. And then you've got dopamine, which is that feel-good chemical that gives us a boost of motivation.
Like a natural energy drink, but without the crash later.
Right, exactly. And the rewiring idea is basically that if you consistently use this time for focused work or stuff that gets you closer to your goals, you're training your brain to be its most productive when those hormones are at their peak.
Okay, so if I'm getting this right, my brain's practically begging me to be productive at the crack of dawn because of those hormones. But what about people who aren't morning people? Like, does this mean night owls are just out of luck?
Not necessarily. We all have these things called chronotypes, like our natural sleep-wake preferences. But even if you're a night owl, you can still benefit from having a well-structured morning. It's about working with your body's natural rhythms. So night owls might want to try moving their wake-up time a little earlier, gradually, rather than, jumping straight to 5 a.m.
Makes sense. It's kind of like easing into a new workout routine.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
about finding a sustainable rhythm that works for you, not shocking your system.
So, speaking of routines, the source we're looking at lays out this pretty intense 5 a.m. schedule: hydration, exercise, mindfulness, journaling, even fitting in some learning. It sounds like a lot to do before most people even think about hitting snooze. So, is all of that stuff really necessary?
Well, each of those things actually has a specific purpose. Take hydration, for example. It's not just about, quenching your thirst. It's about actually waking up your cells after you've been sleeping all night. It's like jumpstarting your body.
Okay, I never thought of it that way. And what about mindfulness? Everyone's talking about mindfulness these days, but it still seems kind of vague to me.
It is more than just a buzzword, though. Studies have shown that it can really reduce stress and help you focus, which is obviously huge for productivity.
I can definitely see that. Like, if you're about to go into a big meeting or tackle a tough project, taking a few minutes to be mindful could help you feel more, I don't know, centered and ready to go.
Exactly. But I get it, this whole routine sounds pretty daunting.
Hmm.
Maybe for people just starting out. Even just like not hitting snooze 5 times could be a win.
Haha, yeah, baby steps. Okay, so we've covered the science and the actual morning routine. Let's move on to another big claim this source makes. They say early rising can, like, supercharge your productivity and focus. They even mention a Harvard Business Review study linking early rising to being more likely to achieve your goals. What do you think about that?
It's interesting. The Harvard study talks about this concept called deep work. The basic idea is that our brains are wired for different types of tasks at different times of day. For a lot of people, early morning is when they're best at complex thinking, problem solving, being creative, you know. And those are the kind of tasks that often get pushed aside as the day gets busier and there are more distractions.
So, using those early hours for deep work could be a huge advantage.
Right. Think about your own work or maybe even some personal projects you have going on. Are there things you need to do that require a lot of focus and concentration? Those early morning hours could be the perfect time to make some serious progress.
Okay, that makes sense. It's not just about getting a head start on emails, it's about tackling those big important things when your mind is at its sharpest. Now let's shift gears a bit. The source also talks about all these health benefits of being an early riser, like better physical and mental well being. How does that fit in with everything else we've talked about?
Well, a lot of these benefits are connected. For example, if you have time for a workout in the morning, that obviously helps your physical health, but it can also improve your mood and energy levels. And that leads to, better mental clarity throughout the day. This source also talks about things like healthy eating and stress reduction, which can be easier to focus on when you have more time in the morning.
So it's about more than just waking up early. It's about what you do with that extra time and how it impacts your overall well-being. But I'm also wondering if this could lead to sleep deprivation if people aren't careful.
That's a good point. All of those benefits shouldn't come at the cost of sacrificing sleep. The source is right to emphasize a gradual adjustment to your wake-up time. You need enough sleep for both your physical and mental health.
Right, sleep is essential. Okay, so we've covered the science, the routines, the productivity boost, and even the health benefits. But this source also claims that early rising can actually make you more disciplined and give you more willpower. They mention people like Tim Cook, Michelle Obama, people who are known for getting things done.
I think those examples are really inspiring. What they highlight is that it's not really about waking up at 5 a.m. specifically. It's about the discipline it takes to do that. And that discipline can apply to any goal you have, whether it's starting a business or just eating healthier. It's about strengthening those mental muscles that help you stick with things even when it's tough.
So it's not about joining some special 5 a.m. club. It's about developing a mindset that prioritizes consistency and commitment, which can help anyone, no matter what their goals are.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that success often means pushing yourself outside your comfort zone and building good habits. Waking up at 5 a.m. can be a very real way to practice those things.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So for those of us who might be thinking, all right, I'm kind of interested, but how do I actually make this happen? The source offers some tips. Set a consistent bedtime, have a relaxing nighttime routine, and, find a strong why to keep you motivated.
All great tips. But I think we can dive a little deeper. For example, understanding how important light exposure is for regulating your sleep-wake cycle. It's really crucial.
Light exposure, I'm listening.
Think about it. We evolved with the sun rising and setting, dictating our sleep. When you're exposed to bright light in the morning, it actually helps suppress melatonin. That's the hormone that makes you sleepy. And then, in the evening, dimming the lights tells your body it's time to wind down.
So if I want to fall asleep earlier and wake up feeling more rested, I should pay more attention to how much light I'm exposed to.
Exactly. It can make a huge difference. Now, about that why factor, it goes beyond just having a reason to get out of bed. It needs to be something that really excites you, something that makes you want to start your day.
So it's about finding what motivates you to get up, not just the fear of your alarm clock.
Yeah. Is it that you want quiet time to work on creative projects?
Hmm.
Do you want to exercise before anyone else is up? Maybe it's just the feeling of accomplishment that comes with, conquering the morning. The more personal and meaningful your why is, the more likely you are to stick with it.
I love that. It's not about forcing yourself into some pre-made mold. It's about finding what works for you and makes this whole 5 a.m. thing feel more like an opportunity, less like a chore.
Exactly. It's about personalizing your approach and making sure your routine aligns with your goals and values. That's what this 5 a.m. mastery thing, or any routine for that matter, is all about.
Well said. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Any last thoughts?
Just remember, this is all about progress, not perfection. There are going to be days when hitting snooze feels amazing, and that's fine. The important thing is to remember the bigger picture and why you're doing this, and just keep coming back to the routine that helps you be your best self.
Perfectly put. All right, listeners, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to delve into some real-world examples and practical tips for actually putting all of this into practice. Stay tuned. And we're back. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling kind of inspired to at least try messing around with my wake-up time a little, even if it's just like, a baby step at first.
That's the right attitude.
Yeah.
Remember, it's about finding what works for you, not trying to fit into someone else's routine.
Definitely. Before the break, we were talking about how important it is to have a good why for waking up early. And I was thinking it would be cool to see how that actually plays out for people in real life. The source mentions people like Tim Cook, Michelle Obama, Richard Branson, all part of the so-called 5 a.m. club. But their lives and careers are so different. So what can we actually learn from their routines?
You're right. Their routines are super different, even though they all get up early. Like Tim Cook. He's known for starting his day with email and a workout. But then Michelle Obama, she prioritizes exercise and family time in the morning. And Richard Branson, he starts his day with exercise and a healthy breakfast, and then he catches up on the news and connects with his team.
So it's not about copying exactly what they do. It's more about getting the main idea and then figuring out how to make it work for your own life.
Exactly. It's interesting. Even though their specific activities are all over the place, there's one thing they all have in common. They're all using that early morning time to set themselves up for success, but in a way that matches their own goals and values.
Okay, I'm starting to see the pattern here. So I know some people listening might be thinking, okay, this is cool, but how do I actually make it happen? Like, where do you even start? The source has some tips, like setting a regular bedtime, having a relaxing nighttime routine, and, that whole why thing we were just talking about.
Mm.
What else can people do?
One thing that I find super helpful is thinking about your morning routine as a series of what I call anchor habits. These are small, positive things that you do consistently. And they're like, triggers that help you build momentum for the rest of your day.
Anchor habits. I like that. It sounds very grounding. What would that look like a real world example?
Sure, let's say you want to make exercise a regular part of your morning routine. Instead of trying to do a whole workout first thing, start with something small. Like as soon as you wake up, put on your workout clothes. That one little thing can kind of shift your mindset and make you more likely to actually exercise.
Oh, that's a good trick. Like you're tricking your brain into being on board with the plan. You're breaking down a big goal into these tiny steps that feel easier to do. What other anchor habits could help people who want to start waking up earlier?
Having a consistent bedtime routine is another big one. You could dim the lights an hour or two before bed, put away your phone and computer, maybe read a book, take a bath, something like that. When you have this predictable wind down time, it signals to your body that it's time to sleep, which helps you fall asleep earlier and wake up feeling more refreshed.
So it's not just about the morning, it's also about preparing the night before. It's like a domino effect, right? One good habit leads to another.
Exactly. A consistent sleep schedule, a good bedtime routine are super important for anyone who wants to start waking up early.
I love all these practical tips. It makes this whole 5 a.m. thing seem a lot less scary. Any final thoughts before we move on?
Just remember that this whole journey to becoming a 5 a.m. master is personal. There will be days when you really want to hit snooze, days when you're tired and you question why you're even doing this. That's totally normal. Just be kind to yourself, celebrate any progress you make, and keep coming back to the routine that helps you live your best life.
That's such an important reminder. It's not about being perfect, it's about progress. And remembering that everyone's journey is different.
Exactly. You have to figure out what works for you. Experiment, make adjustments, and most importantly, listen to your body.
Great advice. Okay, listeners, we've talked about the science behind early rising, some practical tips for making it happen, and even how some successful people use those early hours to their advantage. Now we want to shift gears a little and get a bit more philosophical. We've been talking a lot about how this can benefit individuals, but what if we think bigger? What if a lot of people started waking up early and using these principles? Could that have an impact on society as a whole?
Whoa, that's a really interesting question. I love that you're thinking beyond just the individual level. You're right, the source we're using mostly talks about personal success, but what would happen if more people had this early bird mentality? Could it actually change things?
Yeah, like a chain reaction of positive habits spreading from one person to another.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine if rush hour traffic wasn't so bad because people were starting their work days earlier. That would mean less stress and more productivity for everyone. Or what if more people had time and energy to volunteer or do things for their communities?
I can see it now. A world with less road rage because everyone's already at work, getting things done, and feeling good. Okay, I'm sold. I'm going to at least try this early raising thing. But before we wrap up and everyone rushes off to set their alarms, any last bits of wisdom for those who are ready to take the plunge?
Start small. Even just moving your wake-up time 15 minutes earlier can make a difference. Focus on doing it consistently, not doing it perfectly. And remember, it's a journey, not a race. There will be days when you hit snooze, and that's totally fine. Be kind to yourself, celebrate those little victories, and keep coming back to the routine that helps you be your best self.
I love that. Progress over perfection and finding what works for you.
Exactly. Experiment, try different things, make it your own, and pay attention to what your body's telling you.
Okay, great advice. Now we want to hear from you. Have you ever tried waking up early? What was it like? Did it change your life? Was it super hard? Or somewhere in between? Share your stories and tips with us using the hashtag 5am deep dive. We might even share some of your responses on a future episode.
We'd love to hear what you've learned from your own experiences. Remember, we're all on this journey of trying to reach our potential together.
That's a great way to put it. And that wraps up our deep dive into the world of 5am mastery. We hope you found this exploration interesting, fun, and maybe even a little inspiring. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to be the best version of yourself.